What's up? I see one person on the live chat. This is the first live stream I've ever attempted to do. I'm in my garage doing some shock service, and I was here by myself. I figured, why not fire up a live stream and see how it goes? So bear with me. I don't have a clue what I'm doing with the interface on this. I see a live chat button. I don't know how to actually see those chats though. Close. If you're there, type something in the chat. Let me know you're there. Maybe I can see it. How's it going? If you're just joining the live stream, this is the first live stream I've ever done. I really, don't know what I'm doing exactly. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to work this live chat feature. So if you're there, I don't know, leave a message. Let me know you're there. Andy, cool. All right, I see Andy. I see one person. Nice. Well, I was in my garage. I'm in the middle of doing a shock service. This is my Fox DPS. It's been on the bike for at least 2 years, probably longer than that, and I haven't done any service on it at all. So it's definitely way overdue. I've actually had these parts, the parts to do the rebuild I've had since last Christmas, and I was like, oh, I'll do it, I'll do it sometime in January or February, and then that passed, and then, riding season really kicked back in, and I just didn't think about it until now. And I don't know where you guys are. I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and we've had the rainiest December we've ever had on record. And even today, it's rained like 3 inches. A huge storm come through here. So it's like all the trails are closed. We can't ride anywhere unless you're riding like gravel or something like that. So it's just the perfect time to tear stuff apart. I did the fork service last winter, replaced the seals, all that good stuff. I think at this point I might just take it back apart and just change the oil on it. But yeah, like I said, I just figured I'd do a live stream, see if anybody joins in. I don't know, it'd be kind of cool if there was a way that you guys could actually like audibly chat back versus a little chat box. But yeah, I don't know. If you have any questions or anything, leave them in the chat. I'll try to respond as I can. Obviously, my hands are going to start to get pretty messy as I start doing this, and I'll have to limit as much as I can to touching the iPad that's over there. But at this point, I just need to proceed with cleaning some more of this old oil off. I specifically went out and got this box of rags that says that it is lint-free because I was using paper towels at first and definitely saw little pieces, little fibers and stuff being left behind, and you really don't want that in your suspension components. So, yeah. Yeah, these are much more cloth-like, so hopefully it'll do a better job. Isopropyl alcohol, just spraying this stuff down. It's already been cleaned pretty well with the paper towels, so really this is kind of like the final little cleaning I'm going to do on it. But how are y'all doing today? I mean, I see there's three of you guys there. What's the riding like in your area this time of year? Trying to pay attention to the chat pop-ups just in case anybody says anything. Seems like even these things are leaving little pieces of crap behind. Christopher Campbell, massive snowstorm. So are you up north on the East Coast? Are you getting the same thing we're getting, and we're just getting a rain version of it here? Yeah, this says lint free. That's insane. This is leaving more lint and little pieces of fiber than the paper towels were. I think I'm gonna go back to the paper towels. I don't know how much the camera is gonna pick that up, but there's little fibers and pieces of crap everywhere on there. Wish the live chat would just stay up on screen. Quebec, huh? All right, I could imagine a lot of snow this time of year. You must just kind of put up the mountain bike for the winter, and I don't know, what else do you do, snowboard or ski or something like that? Patiently waiting for spring. Yeah. I mean, we're lucky enough that it doesn't get too cold here. I mean, you know, overnight down below freezing in the winter, but during the day it'll warm up even in the coldest times of the winter, you know, into the 40s or something like that. And I'm perfectly happy riding in temperature like that. So it's more or less year round. It's just when we get all this rain like we get, and it's not the summertime, the trees aren't kind of like trees and bushes and everything soaking up that water and drinking it up. It just lingers for so long, and the trails just stay closed for so long. We've got a lot of like clay-based soil here, so it can really be damaged if you ride on it when it's wet. You leave ruts in it, and then those ruts just kind of permanently stay that way, unfortunately. So I'm not sure who's been here since the start, but I was saying, you know, this is the first time I've actually ever serviced a shock, and I've watched quite a few different videos online. Sid Fixes Bikes has a really good one. Who else did I watch? Watched a few others. I can't remember the guy's name, Trailbreaker or something like that. A couple different methods also that I've seen people do in terms of what you grease and how much you grease and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think more grease probably better. Okay, so those are all the old bits. Open this up before I put on the gloves. So I'm usually really bad about not putting on gloves, and then my hands wind up smelling like greasy, oily stuff. Even after you wash them 10 times and you try to use Dawn dish soap and all that stuff, that just grease smell just sticks around in your skin. It's crazy. I don't know how that is. But yeah, I went out and got some gloves for this because I was tired of that. I mean, the whole time, it was actually a different day that I disassembled this and did the majority of the cleaning. And that, yeah, like I said, that grease smell, I just could not get it off my hands. And since I'll be working with the Fox fluid, and then also, you know, they recommend some sort of suspension grease. I've got SRAM butter, which I think is pretty much the same thing as slick honey, which is pretty much the same thing as petroleum. So yeah, just getting the mixture of that stuff on your hands, probably not the best. So I got my new parts here. So I'm going to start first with the shaft. And I remember taking out a small O-ring that was tucked up in there, or actually a big O-ring, but small, thin, very thin one. And I think this kit comes with multiple different sizes, maybe for different applications. So it's a matter of finding the size that matches what you took off. But that O-ring is going to go in there. Then there's two little like nylon washers and then a bigger, thicker rubber washer that goes in there. Once those are on, this part is done, and I think that's kind of the easiest part. So let's see. This is the one that came off. I'm going to say that's the exact same diameter, so put just a little bit of this grease on there. If you left something in the chat and I haven't seen it or responded to it, maybe fire it off again. Hopefully it'll pop back up. Because like I said, I'm trying not to touch the iPad too much while I'm doing this. So this I know was a little bit tough getting it out because it had to sit in a little groove. And really I think I need like a little pick maybe to push it back in with. I don't know, that seems a little too sharp. Let's see. Maybe just a small screwdriver. I think I've gone a little past the groove that it's supposed to go into. Should have paid more attention when I took the old one out. Yeah, it can't go past that. But I would say this is pretty critical, this little O-ring. It's what's going to have the air seal happen. Alright, we're in the groove there. Don't have the best lighting set up out here. What do we got? We got somebody else here. I see two whole people watching now, watching my very first live stream. Leave a little message in the chat. Say hi. Let me know where you're joining from. I'll try to keep an eye on it. It only pops up and then stays up very briefly and then goes away on the screen. I know this is probably extremely boring right now, watching me just try to get this O-ring in place, but you know, I will say, oh, there we go, I think it popped in the whole perimeter now. This may give you a more realistic view of how this is to do the first time for somebody who's never done it before, for example, versus some of these polished videos you see, these planned out videos on YouTube that show you step by step, but they may not go into all the detail of, you know, how hard it is to get in a particular piece, or, you know, you're not looking at it live time, and you're certainly not looking at it at the point of view from the person who's never done it before. So O-ring in there, it just has to fit in the groove. It can go too far, and the only way you may know that it goes too far is where this switch is, the actual body on the inside sticks out a little bit. So that's kind of like your guide. Follow that channel the whole perimeter around. So that's done. I see a couple more people joined. If you're just joining, this is my first live stream ever. I'm working on doing some maintenance on the bike because the winter is the perfect time to do that. Like I said, we've gotten tons of rain around here, so trails are closed. I'm not really going to be riding anyway. So why not do the maintenance that I've been putting off for a very long time? So Fox DPS, I've taken it apart, I've cleaned it out, got the parts to replace all the seals and all that good stuff. So I'm in the process of doing that. The first thing I put in, O-ring here. After that, there are, let's see, we've got two of these little nylon washers, which it's actually weird. I saw the old ones as they came out, they had these little black specks in them, and I thought maybe that was dirt or something like that, or just like rubber breaking down from the other ones, but it's actually like in the plastic, these little black specks. So I do know that these will go in, and there's a bigger rubber ring. There's a slant. Let's see if the camera will pick that up. Yeah, so you want to make sure that when you put that in, it goes in properly versus going like that, because that is not good, and it won't keep the the proper shape, and probably won't even fit if you did that. So if you're just joining in, let me know in the chat where you guys are joining from, what you're up to tonight, how's the riding in your part of the country or part of the world. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got a couple people mentioning things on here. We'll have to service my X Fusion Pro. X Fusion Pro on your, oh, okay, on your Marin, Christopher. Yeah, okay. What do you have? You have a Rift Zone or, well, I guess the Hawk Hills are called the Rift Zones now. But yeah, the X Fusion, I would imagine, they have a pretty good, like, some sort of service video or something like that you can find and figure out exactly what to do. Let's see, I guess I'll drop this over this way. I will say, like any of these kind of service things, taking pictures of what you take apart is always helpful, unless you just have a really good memory with that. Watching YouTube videos in advance, I mean, not only do I make stuff on YouTube, I watch tons of it. Pretty much anything I've learned to do on the bike has come from some other content creator. So this is the thicker seal that's going to go on there. And really, probably kind of hard to tell. There's like a little groove running through it. So I'm trying to make sure to get enough grease to almost like fill in that groove. Because that's what's going to be sliding, the friction up and down is going to be happening on this piece. So. Of course, I'll mention I am not a bike mechanic, so yeah, I'm just kind of showing you guys what I'm doing, and I guess kind of checking in, because I've also been a little quiet on the channel lately too, busy with work, family, typical things of life. try to get this on without using any kind of tool, because I don't want to use a pick if I don't have to. Don't want to risk damaging anything. All right, that's on nicely. Check back in on the chat, live chat. James says the stream looks good so far. All right, cool, man. Appreciate that. Very low budget streaming here. Literally just an iPad propped up against a paint can, just to get it far enough away. Christopher, yeah, Rift Zone 29.1. Yeah, nice. I mean, I've really enjoyed my Rift Zone. I've had it now. I mean, I got it just at the beginning of 2021. Yeah, 2021, I guess, right before the pandemic started, I think. So yeah, I've had it for a while, and you know, I've kind of toyed with the idea of trying something different, something with maybe more travel, or I don't know, even something with less travel that could possibly be lighter and more of a speed machine kind of bike. But I don't know, nothing out there really like convinces me to spend that extra bit of money, or you know, just I don't know. I mean, the geometry is still really modern and, you know, up to date on it. I've changed a lot of parts. Now I'm doing some maintenance. I actually do have some new things going on too. One which is new and is on, but then will be coming back off. P&W 200mm dropper post. If you do have a Rift Zone, this is a size large. The 200mm of drop, in theory, would work because of how much of the I don't know, not dropper part of the seat post that was sticking out. You know, when I had the 150mm on there, it was like, I don't know, 80mm of post showing. So it's like, cool, I could easily get 200mm on here and get some more drop on this thing, feel better on jumps and stuff like that. And the problem is it won't insert far enough down in the frame because of the added length of, you know, the main part of the dropper post. And with the P&Ws, you can even reduce the travel on them by 25mm. So I've got it set now, I've got it pushed down as far as it'll go, reduced by 25mm, so that it's 175mm dropper post essentially, and it's still just a little bit too high. Like I feel like my legs are extending too much, it's just not comfortable. So it's gonna have to come off. I've already started the return with P&W, which was like super easy. Those guys are the best. Like anything I've had to do so far, they sent me a dropper post for a different bike build, just no cost, just to feature them in the video. This was totally out of pocket, like not related to that at all. And they've been good about that. You know, I should have done a little more research about the insertion depth and all of that, but it is what it is. All right, so the 3 of those are on there, and aside from the massive amount of grease that I've left behind, that's pretty much ready to go. It's going to need some float fluid put on those seals too before I put everything back together. But now comes the part that, at least in one video I did see, looked like it was a huge pain, which is getting a similar series of seals inside the air can. You've got the main dust wiper. That looks like it's easy, but then you've got this medium-ish rubber one and these 2 plastic ones to go in, and instead of putting it around the outside, you're having to kind of force feed it onto the inside. So, I don't know, not exactly looking forward to doing that, but it must be done. Let me check in on the chat before I start messing with that. SDG Tellus, yeah, 150mm. I've heard a lot of good stuff about that brand. I don't know why. I never even like really looked at them. Ever since P&W sent me that post for the Bobcat Trail build, you know, my brain was just like, okay, cool. Like next time I need something, they're going to be the first company I go to. Next time I need a dropper post. And I also got some range bars here too. Um, but those may not actually be going on. Um, as you guys know, I do, little things here and there with Marin. Not like I'm sponsored or paid by them or anything, but they sent me the Bobcat Trout to review. They sent me the Pine Mountain to review just on send it to me for a few months and then I send it back to them. I like messing around with new bikes and they like to get some exposure, so it's a win-win. I think they're going to be sending me basically like a new Marin. Marin makes their own components. So I think they're going to send me some bars, a stem, and some grips to put on. I'll put them on the Rift Zone and just see like do these more higher end components, especially from a bike manufacturer and not a component company. Like how do they feel? So that hopefully will be coming up soon. If not, then these range bars will be going on. But yeah, I would say like dropper post on a Rift Zone, large size frame, 170. I know One Up makes a 180 millimeter dropper post, and that I do believe would work at least for my height and with a large frame, the amount of insertion and all that. But I think the 170 from PNW is going to be really good. You don't really need that much drop if you're not really doing like pure downhill riding and stuff like that. So I'm delaying the inevitable of having to try to cram these in. So the way some of the videos I've seen, they put, what do they do? I think they put this rubber piece in first. I don't know. It seems like these are the ones that are going to be harder to get in because you kind of have to taco them. Dust. So I'm going to try to get these in first, actually. A little bit of grease. Kind of trying to keep an eye on how many people are on this live stream, but if you're just joining in, drop a message. Let me know, where you're from, what you're up to tonight, how's the riding in your area, all that good stuff. Oh yeah, I can already tell this is going to be a huge pain. Oh man, maybe that way. Oh, that makes more sense. Well, if you're trying this, you're thinking of it, tacoing it and putting it in. I'll do a upside down taco. It seems to line it more up into the groove. And from there, it's a breeze actually. That was not bad at all. Now I'm sure like getting in the final one is going to be the biggest challenge. I guess I'll just go in order, the little plastic guy, then this bigger rubber piece, and then the final plastic one. I don't really know how much is too much with the grease, but like a healthy amount. Actually, so on this, it's maybe more that inner edge than the outer edge, because the outer edge is just going, into the perimeter of that air can. So focus a little more here. Looks like we got another person on the live stream. Leave me a message in the chat. Say hi. Let me know how you're doing tonight. Yeah, I wonder if that should have gone in first, but I think I can get this in. Oh yeah, that wasn't bad either. So now I think is going to be the real challenging part. It's getting this last plastic bit in. Went to a Bomber Z2 from a recon, so I'm looking at Fox or maybe Marzocchi for the rear. Yeah, I mean, I like matching parts as much as possible. I really don't know anything about Marzocchi's rear shocks, but you hear a lot of good stuff about their forks. So I would be inclined to go that way. James, upstate New York near Syracuse, no riding because of snow. Gale warning tonight. Yeah, you're getting the same storm we are. I guess you're just getting a snow version of it. We've gotten tons of rain today on top of what is already saturated ground, saturated trails. I mean, I guess I got one trail ride in since New Year's, but yeah, it's just been so wet. The wettest December on record for Virginia, or at least for Richmond, which is where I am. So yeah, perfect time to take stuff apart on the bike and do some maintenance. All right, reverse taco method. See if I can get this top piece in. Ooh. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. I feel like I'm bending it, but it is so close. Last little bit that needs to go in. All right, that really wasn't too bad. After watching the video from Sid Fixes Bikes, it seemed like that was going to be really, really, really big pain. And it only turned out to be, I don't know, a medium to small pain. Like, that really wasn't that bad at all. I think the proper technique, doing the upside down taco, definitely helped, because trying to do it the other way, just, I don't know, it was going below where it needed to go in. So, yeah. All right, cool. So the last bit to go in is going to be this dust wiper. Check in the live chat first. All right, so this, let's see, what am I thinking here? I think I read that this just went in dry. So I'm going to go with doing that. And that's going in very easy. It's another groove that just pops into. Yeah, I mean, that was a breeze. Absolute breeze. So I don't really remember. I think a little bit of grease, suspension grease around here, similar to what you would do around the dust wiper on a fork. That's what I'm going to go with here. So yeah, if you're just tuning in, I'm doing some shock maintenance on my Fox DPS. It's been on the bike for, I know I've mentioned this for some of you guys that are already here, but been on the bike for 2.5 years, I guess, at this point, and I've done no service on it since then. So it's been time. I've actually had this rebuild kit since not this Christmas that just passed, but the one before that, and I was going to do it, you know, that winter, and I just never got around to it. And then by the time the weather started getting warmer, I wanted to ride. I didn't feel like spending time taking stuff apart on the bike. So it's way overdue. Fork service was done last winter. I probably will just change the oil on that, just to kind of keep everything. It'd be nice to have it all on the same schedule. I mean, I started thinking like, oh, okay, well, each winter, maybe I'll do the shock one winter and the fork the next winter. Then it's like, okay, you got great performance out of one thing while the other one's waning performance. So probably be best to get them both on the same schedule. They're obviously going to have the same amount of riding hours and things like that. So let's see, live chat, what do we got? 165 millimeter race face cranks. Yeah, shorter cranks are good to an extent, I think. Some people going too, I guess for a medium 165 seems right. I went from 175 to 170 when I put these Truitive cranks on there with the dub bottom bracket. Really, just to save weight was really the main reason I did that. And I didn't even think about it at all, the length. I just went by the recommendation of the shop. They said 170 seems to be what people are going towards. I didn't notice too much of a difference. I think the only thing that's kind of like a negative to them is it puts the bottom end of your stroke up higher, which in that case, you would probably want to raise your seat a little bit to compensate for that. And then by doing that, you're kind of raising your center of gravity on the bike, at least when you're seated. So yeah, I've seen videos of people going to extremely short cranks, like 150s, and to me, like I said, unless you're just riding downhill or something like that, that doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, 175 down to 170, 165, I think it's good. I think with anything, things kind of sway from one extreme to the other, right? So like 175 is the standard forever, and then people are like, oh, well, why does it have to be that way? And then let's test it out. How short can we go? And then it's going to probably come back to more of a medium point, I think, as an average for most riders. All right, so I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here, because these are all the pieces I took off. That's the piece that I replaced there. Then, all right, so that's, yeah, put all those things back in. Put all these back in. So I'm good to start reassembling this thing now, which could also be a little bit of a challenge. I don't know what these are, but they came out, basically maybe they're like bottom out bumpers or something like that, but there was 2 of them in here. So maybe we'll put a tiny bit of grease on these guys too. So, I know putting this back on can be difficult. I have seen some things that say set the rebound as slow. Let's see. What would that be? Would that be closed or open? Rebound slow. Yeah, I've got the rebound as slow as it can possibly go. That way when I'm pushing it on, trying to thread it back on, it's not going to try to come back, fight against me, because no matter what, even though there's not any, I don't know, if there's not any air pumped into it, as I slide this on, it's going to catch air and then compress that air. So there will be some resistance just trying to thread this back on. I don't know if anybody's new. If you are, let me know how you're doing tonight. Leave a message in the chat. Trying to check it pretty regularly here. Alright, so the float fluid. From what I understand, this is essentially like twice as much as you actually need to do this. Basically, you're going to coat these seals that I put in and then slide it on and inject about a third of this in. You can do too much, like it can affect the performance negatively if you put too much in, so try to keep that in mind. God, hard to do this with greasy gloves on. Go with some scissors. Scissors that are filthy. So I'm curious. It's a pretty lightweight oil. Seems pretty lightweight. Well, I guess compared to a grease. So I'll put a little bit on here. So I'm hoping by doing this service that the bike's going to feel a little more plush. I don't know if it's just the colder weather, which, you know, can kind of affect your suspension a bit or what, but it just feels like it's been a little harsh lately. I don't really know. Maybe I'm just getting older. But I feel like I'm getting beat up a little bit more than I used to. And maybe it's just down to the suspension. Alright, so that's looking good. Prop that up. Yeah, there we go. So the float fluid needs to just go around these seals as well, which, you know, they're already greased, but I guess a little fluid on them helps too. Something lighter action. If you're just joining in, this is my first live stream ever, working on some long overdue bike maintenance. I don't know, I figured I'd just go live and see what people were up to tonight, how they're doing. So leave a message in the chat. Let me know how things are going for you. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, take my hands off a little bit. So hopefully I can do this without actually having to put it back on the vise. So what am I doing wrong here? I feel like I must be doing something wrong. I don't feel like that should have that much resistance. There we go. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay. All right, so maybe down to something like the F. I definitely don't want to overdo it. Yep, that's a third, maybe a little bit more. I think I'm happy with that. All right, so I would say that this shock service is like a lot of things that I've dealt with bike maintenance wise. It may seem a little bit overwhelming at first. If you do your research, if you watch some videos, if you watch some tutorials, things like that, it's really not that bad. And especially if you're kind of detail oriented, if you're a detail oriented person, if you're used to working on, I don't know, cars or, anything that you just kind of have to follow a method on, it's not that bad. It really isn't. Having the proper tools helps. A torque wrench for certain things is obviously helpful. Let me check in on the chat. All right. Nothing new there. If you are new, leave something in the chat. Let me know how you're doing tonight. I think I might put this in the vise just to get a good, I don't know, a little more leverage, tightening that can down. Oh, yeah, pretty important thing too. So this all depends on your hardware and your mounting situation and all that, but there are multiple pieces, that go onto this bottom, I don't know, little nylon washers and whatnot. I don't know what they're called exactly. Anyway, I took some off and I thought I had cleared it enough that I could slide this air can off. And I think no matter what you do, there's always gonna be a little bit of air pressure left, negative chamber and all that stuff. So when I unthreaded it, it kind of shot off with a little bit of force, and it pushed, the old seal, wherever it is, pretty hard. I guess it's not damaged, but pressed it pretty hard against those little pieces of hardware there. So I had to then kind of like force it back on a bit, get those little plastic washers and little things off, just so I could get the air can to slide off. And obviously they need to go back on before it can go back on the bike. So well, they say hand tight is fine with this. I also saw stuff saying like you might need like a strap wrench or something to get the air can off. for me, it, you know, easily came off with my hands, which obviously leads me to believe that, you know, just a good hand tight going back on should be just fine. So now I gotta remember the orientation. I wonder if I should save this flow fluid. I mean, like I said, I've used less than half of it. I feel like going back in this little container, or this little plastic bag, if I keep it upright, it should keep until I have to do this again. One less thing to have to buy. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that can survive in my garage upright. Even at this moment, I don't even know where to put it where it will stay upright. Anybody new, just leave a message in the chat, say hi, let me know what's going on, how you're doing. Trying to keep an eye on it, but it doesn't stay up on this iPad screen like permanently. I click on the chat, it stays up for a minute, fades away. All right. This probably should go in first. I don't know if there's a method as to getting this centered. I think just by its nature, it will have to kind of center itself once you put the other pieces in. I also wonder if I should have greased that before putting it in. Oh yeah, things flying. I'll put a little grease on this, can't hurt. It's a super snug fit anyway. It's like, I don't even think, probably all that grease that I just put on just got wiped right back off. All right, so at least in the case of the DPS, going on a rift zone, itty bitty O-rings that go in there, and there's a small groove that they fall into. And as long as they're not like sticking out, I think once you put on the next pieces, they will slide right on in. So do you guys work on your own bikes, or do you more or less take them to a shop to have stuff done? Let me know. I mean, I've done both. Kind of depends on if it's something that I feel like I don't either have the right tools or the right knowledge for. I prefer to do as much as I can myself because well, kind of know it's done right. I like to know that something's done right. I'm the same way with my vehicle. I like to change my own oil. I don't like to trust an oil shop to do it. You know, they over tighten the drain plugs. They just, I don't know. They're not the most skilled mechanics usually that are doing the oil changes. Bike stuff, you know, I do trust bike shops, most of them anyway. But I don't know, you get a satisfaction of doing something yourself that you don't get when you just take your item to a shop and have them do it. And I've felt that way kind of throughout life about most things. Christopher, when he has time, to prefer to do it himself. Yeah, I hear that. I mean, sometimes I would say it's actually kind of more of a pain to take it to a shop. I mean, unless you're already going there or something like that, but then you got to drive out of your way, wait for them to do it. Maybe they're not as responsive. You may have to call them. There's actually a whole big debacle about this shop in Richmond right now. Um, I'm not going to say any names because I don't know the full story, but it has been in the news and stuff like that. They're a very well-known shop. I've been to them for a few things. They've gotten me out of a couple pickles too with like a flat, just because of their proximity to the trails and stuff like that. But they just kind of like ghosted all their customers in December. People who may have had their bikes in for service, the doors were locked, the phone was disconnected. So some of the information going around is that they are being sued by one of the brands that they sell for essentially like not paying maybe whatever terms they had. They probably bought bikes with 90-day terms or something to pay for them, thinking that they would sell them. And obviously the bike industry has gone through some crazy stuff lately. And I guess they just, haven't been able to make good on that. But people's bikes that were in for service, people who had pre-ordered bikes, just nothing. And then this story hit the news. People not knowing what was going on, is going to go into collections, or the bike's going to be gone. If you ordered a bike or a frame that was supposed to come in, you already paid for it and you got a bike. So the latest to come out is that the owner has come out and said, okay, the shop's going to be reopening sometime in January. The closure was necessary and unfortunate, but it still just seems like a really shady situation because as a business owner, I would think he would have known that was coming, and maybe wouldn't have taken people's bikes in for service or something like that. But like I said, I don't know the whole story. I don't want to pass judgment. They've been very good to me in the past. So hopefully it all gets resolved. But the reason I'm on that topic is because talking about just like, do you want to work on your own bike or do you want to take it to a shop? Not that every shop experience is going to be like that, but if you're doing it yourself, you avoid all that stuff, and if you have the time to do it, you want to gain some knowledge by doing it, that's always a good thing too. So I'm saying all that, hopefully this actually works out, and holds air like it's supposed to and all that good stuff. All right, let's see. Looks about right. So as is the case with mine, I did see that a lot of times this shaft can spin while you're working on it or doing whatever, and it doesn't line back up exactly. And it did, and I was able to just kind of spin it back by hand if you had to. You could put a tool in there for more leverage. Let's see, no, that's too far. I just wanted to install back on the bike as easy as possible. Cool, yeah. All right, well, that's got to go back on the bike. That has been cleaned, so it can go back on pretty easily. I'm gonna check the live chat, or yeah, the chat one more time. But I know I've been on here for an hour, so I'm sure you guys might be a little bit bored. Oh yeah, James works on his own stuff too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to do it. Like I said, that sense of satisfaction that you get from fixing something on your own. I don't know, it's hard to beat something like that. Like, you may not even enjoy doing it while you're doing it, but when you're done and it works like it's supposed to, and you're the one that did it, it's just I don't know, it's a really nice feeling. Can't wait to hear about the first ride after this service. Yeah, well, it might be a bit, just because I do want to do the fork service too, and all this miserable rain, so. Cool, James. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I figured why not? I'm doing it anyway. Why not live stream it? So, yeah, I'll follow up. If something explodes, if I go to put it back in and it doesn't hold air, or something crazy goes on, I will certainly follow up on it. Otherwise, yeah, I'll check back in once all the service is done. yeah, we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. But thanks for joining. Like I said, I'm going to get this back on the bike, and then I'm probably going to call it a night and work on the fork another day. But thanks for joining in. Stay tuned. Like I said, I know I haven't done a lot with like videos on the channel. Even with my last video, I'm like, cool, I'm going to do these like 3-minute review videos. It'll be so easy to find time and film them and edit them. And that was over a month ago. And I still haven't done the next one, which the next one was supposed to be and still will be the Vittoria Agaro, which I have on the rear of the Rift Zone. I did the Mazda up front 3-minute review on that. The Agaro sneak preview of that review, very similar thoughts to the Mazda DHF comparison to the Agaro Recon comparison. But yeah, that'll be coming up. Possibly some Marin components, Marin pedals, which I've had on for a while. I do want to do a 3-minute video review on those. I do like them. They're not perfect, but I like them quite a bit. So yeah, we'll go over those. But yeah, have a good one, guys. Happy New Year to you. I don't think it's too late to still say that. And I will see you next time. Thanks a lot for joining in. See ya.